Hello and welcome back to the Nitro RX podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Thiemo Daily, and I am joined, as always, by my excellent co-host Nabila Tejpar as we come back for 2023. How are you today?
I am doing well, thanks. How about yourself?
Not too bad at all, and very much looking forward to getting stuck into this interview that we've got today. Do you want to tell everyone listening who we're going to be talking to today?
Absolutely. I am excited to say that we're going to be joined by Jimmy Henderson, who has quite the career and has had quite the finishes in Nitro RX.
Yeah, consistency very key there, and for someone who jumped in for 2 rounds, he's had quite a good time of it, and already learning the ropes of Nitro RX, and maybe from some interviews that we've seen, not too familiar with the amount of door bashing that gets involved. So maybe we can have a talk about that with him.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for joining us. So I thought we might just jump right in. So, how about you tell us a little bit about your motorsport background for those that might not know?
Um, so I started in circle track, running dirt, late models, stuff like that. I raced some asphalt for a large part of my career, kind of starting around 16, raced till my mid 20s on circle track, and had a really bad accident racing the ARCA series, which used to be called Remax ARCA series. So I had a pretty bad accident at Pocono and ended up having to quit for 4 or 5 years. Actually started competing in the Scottish Highland Games as an athlete and did that for a while. And then just decided to get back into it. So I started racing Legends cars and doing road course racing and circle track and Legends, and then moved back into late models. And then I was actually riding my dirt bike at a local motocross track and saw some guys racing side by sides, and was like, man, this is pretty awesome. You get to jump and race, and you're on dirt. And I didn't even know, other than riding my dirt bike, I never used tear offs before, so that was interesting. But so moved into side by sides. Kind of got hooked up with Johnny Greaves in the off road series, and he got me into a Pro 4, and I've been racing Pro 4 for 3 years now. And then kind of fell into the whole rallycross thing. So have 4 rallycross races under my belt now, and really got to thank Back 40 and Eric Gordon for that. They've done awesome job. It's kind of a deal where I just show up and race, and that's pretty fun because it's not near as stressful as Pro 4. So pretty excited to see where everything goes with Nitro Rallycross and what we can make of this deal. So
I know we're here for
That's
the
awesome.
motorsport, but I got to ask, how the heck did you get involved in the Scottish Highland Games?
so kind of I was messing around. I've always done like football, baseball, stuff like that, and um, always been an athlete through high school and stuff. And after my wreck, I had a concussion and I had lower back pain. So I started doing like CrossFit to work on my lower back pain. And in that, I ran into a guy that did Scottish Highland Games and started watching his YouTube videos, stuff like that. And, I did the whole family me thing, and kind of went to my background, and did the DNA test, stuff like that, and found out that I was Scottish. And I was like, oh, cool, let's go to one of these. Same thing. I went to a Scottish Highland Games here in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and immediately I fell in love with it, and I was like, yeah, I want to throw a caber. I want to throw stones and stuff like that. So did that for a couple years, very successful with it. And it was a ton of fun. The people are amazing, and just the culture and the history. I do have a friend that lives in Scotland. He lives in Stirling, and Chris, he used to live in Charlotte, North Carolina. We hung out a lot, and he would come to the games and stuff like that. So it was kind of a family thing. And then eventually racing, if it's really in your blood, you just can't live without it. And
So it's going to pull you back.
Yeah, it did. It did. And it was pretty upsetting when NASCAR pulled my license because of the concussion. And I was really young at the time. I mean, this was back in 2005. So it was pretty upsetting. So I had to have something to kind of get that competitive. But, you know, you get like this competitive just urge, and so I needed something to kind of get that out of my system. So Highland Games it was, and loved it. Did it for, like I said, 4 or 5 years, but eventually I had to get back into racing. So once my head kind of cleared up a little bit, I jumped back in the car.
Definitely a unique way to keep fit so you can get back into the racing as well then later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still do P90X, and now I've started the V-Shred program. So I take my body pretty seriously. I'm not getting any younger, and I got to make sure I'm in tip top shape. So it's racing is a physical. I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like they drive down the road and don't really understand it, but the cars are fighting you. You're getting beat. My ribs are usually sore at the end of a Pro 4 race. My neck is definitely sore. Rally car, kind of the same way. They're not as abusive as a Pro 4 truck, but you're still, you get beat around a lot, and you need to be prepared for it.
No, definitely. And obviously, we hear about Nitro RX. So you mentioned a little bit just now that you've got a couple of the drivers to thank for that a little bit. But when did you first hear about it? And was it just kind of, I was going to ask, why did you want to get involved? But it kind of seems obvious to anyone who looks at it that you want to get involved. But how did that all happen for you?
So I met Travis he ran a Pro 4 truck at Crandon 2 years ago. And that's when I first heard about it. And that's where it first got on my radar, and started watching it. I've watched the races and stuff, and watched the supercars last year and stuff like that. And then when Eric called me, it was literally like, hey, Tommy can't make it to the race next week. I need a driver. Do you want to do it? And I was like, well, let me see if I can get off work. Let me see if I can get a flight. And yeah, I'll meet you there in 3 days. My wife was ready to kill me because we threw it all together so fast. And I was like, so I'm leaving for California Friday. So yeah, I'd never seen like a lights car in person, or I mean, they were showing me like how to work the throttle and how to work the shifter and how to start the car. So it was kind of funny. Like the first day in California, I was like, what's this switch do? What does this switch do? It was kind of thrown to the wolves type thing, but it turned out great. The racing was great and unbelievable. I was really impressed with how professional that series is to be so young. I mean, and now I've started doing the calls. Like they do a call every other Thursday, and I've started doing those. So it's really an incredible series, and what they've been able to build in a couple of years is very impressive.
That's really cool. So you mentioned it's super different to what you're normally used to competing Nitro. How did it feel taking that out on track, and how did you find the tracks? Like you do a little bit of dirt biking, so you might have been over jumps before, but what about that gap jump in Nitro? How did you find it?
Yeah, so we jump in the Pro 4 trucks. It's
Okay.
off-road racing, so we're jumping quite a bit farther because we're in trucks
wow.
with 20-inch travel, and we're jumping quite a bit farther. That was actually pretty easy. The hardest thing for me wasn't really the jumps; it was the fact that we had no tread on the tires, because it's like any wet spot, anything on the track upsets the car and you get wheel spin. So it's like figuring out throttle control, and then the car really doesn't have a ton of power. So it doesn't, like my Pro 4's got 900 horsepower. So it will correct itself. I can pull out of mistakes. I can overdrive entry and it'll still pull out. where the next car, your gear selection, your lines, your entry points, everything has to be perfect. And that was really the hardest thing for me to kind of figure out, because I haven't been in an underpowered vehicle like race car in a long time, which means like the power to weight ratio is to the point to where you can't pull through a turn or pull out of a mistake. It's been quite a long time since I've been in a vehicle with that little of power. So, I overdrive the car. I did it at Phoenix a couple times. I had the lead and I actually overdrove in a corner and gave it away, and I come out of the turn third, and that's something that I've got to learn. Like, I've got to discipline myself to kind of make sure I have full control of the vehicle, and I'm understanding my entry points and how slick is the track and where's the groove at, which in a Pro 4 you can get away with missing some of those things. And I wouldn't say be lazy about it, but you can overdrive a corner to make a pass and the motor's going to pull out, even if you're out in the cushion. Where in a rally car, it's not as forgiving, or at least in the lights car, they're not as forgiving. I'm dying to get in one of those e-cars. I just like, fingers crossed, try to make it work one day. We'll see. But I think that is going to fit me better, my driving style, and it fits kind of what I race in now better, because the driving is going to be closer, comparable. But I do think the lights cars are incredible learning tool, and they make you disciplined. If you want to be competitive, you have to be disciplined.
That does lead me quite nicely into my next question, though, which maybe this is not going to be the case at all, but you came third in both rounds at Glen Helen and Phoenix. Was there one more satisfying than the other, or was the not satisfying either case? Because, like you said there, you were leading at one point and then you go too much into a corner and you come out of it third.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I had no expectations at Glen Helen. I was just there. I was just learning the
Yeah.
car, figured everything out. I was happy with the second and third. Um, at Phoenix, we were competitive. We were right there. We won a semifinal. We were in the mix. We had fast lap in 3 or 4 of the races. Um, I felt like we were very competitive at Phoenix, and we were very good. Um, you know, we did end up getting a second there, but it was just because Casper got the disqualification or the penalty. And I wasn't very happy with that, because I felt like the last day at Phoenix, we had a great car, and we did have issues with the door, and I was having to hold the door shut, caused some issues for us, because they were like, if the
Always the
door comes
doors.
open, yeah. Well, the guy told me, he was like, if the door comes open, you're getting disqualified. And I was like holding on to it for dear life. So I was actually steering with my right hand and shifting. So I would like bring my brake foot up. I bring my left knee up, catch the steering wheel shift, put my hand back on the wheel. It was a mess, but we still finished third. So,
I'm kind of more impressed with that third now that you've said it like that. So
the in-car camera was a total wreck. I mean, the in-car camera was like, it looked like there was a bee in the inside the car or something, you know. But yeah, it was pretty wild going back and watching it. But I just felt like we were better than where we finished. And the reason we didn't finish where we should have, because Casper had some runs, he would hit like a super fast lap, but he wasn't consistently fast. And I felt like consistently lap to lap, we were very fast. And the third place finishes was a letdown to me, because I know it's because I made mistakes. I'd run 3 fast laps and then have a major mistake. I would miss a turn, or I would miss my entry, or be in the wrong gear. The cars are really hard to shift. My Pro 4, like the way the dog ears work, they shift real easy. You don't really have to push on it very hard. And those, if my timing's off, it just won't go into gear, certainly accelerating out in a corner. So, it's some things I need to learn about the car to get better. But it's just like, I can go back and watch the in-car camera and I can pick 4 points out in each race where that cost me a position. That cost me, I had a spot where Casper took the Joker lane and I took outside lane, and I should have cleared him, but I missed a shift coming off of the outside of the track. And that, just that 1/10 that I missed right there, 2/10 that I missed by missing that shift, cost me the position because Casper was able to get up next to me. And, it's just going through those little things just eat me up so bad. I get so frustrated, and I will watch video like and critique myself. And I always tell like my crew chiefs and stuff and Eric, like, I'm my own worst critic. Nobody's ever going to say you did this wrong, because I already know, because I'm mad at myself like when I get out of the car if I didn't win. So
Definitely racing driver mentality there, and at least the silver lining rather with it is that you can watch it and you can identify where these little bits and pieces are that didn't go to plan, and it's not you having to struggle through the footage trying to think where the hell did it go wrong. At least you know what to improve on.
Yeah, it's been a big learning curve. Like I said, the cars are very difficult to drive. They're not overpowered. They're not going to save you. If you overdrive in the corner, it doesn't have the power just to pull out and save you. You're going to bog the car down. You're probably going to have to clutch to shift down. There's so many things with those little lights cars, and I'm loving it, honestly, because I think it's making me better. And I truly feel like when I get back in a Pro 4 in April, I'm going to be a better driver because I did this. And hopefully in 2023, me and Eric will be able to make, or this year, but next season, 23-24 season, me and Eric will be able to make schedules work out and be able to do this again. That's the hope. So, but, obviously my Champ Off-Road and Pro 4 program has to come first. But I am all intentions of getting knee deep in Nitro Rallycross.
So you've kind of answered my next question quite nicely there, but just to make sure we're absolutely clear then, planning on coming back for 23-24 season, but we probably won't see you again for the remainder of this season.
No, I am going to run. So Pro 4 doesn't start until till April. Okay. We're actually doing like an exhibition race the end of April. We actually don't start till June. So I will be in Canada. Need to book my flights, but I will be there. So, and I will be in Glen Helen for the World Championships also.
Lovely.
So nice. Me and Eric have already we've already finalized that deal and made that happen. It's more the 24-23, and it's going to depend on how Nitro Rally schedule falls and how they overlap, if anything overlaps with Champ Off-Road. So that's what I'll be looking for. And then once the schedule comes out, me and Eric will sit down and come up with a game plan. So
that's awesome. So you obviously just mentioned you're going to be going to Canada. So how do you think you're going to find that move from gravel to pretty much ice going over there?
So I've had an opportunity to see the tires. I'm pretty excited about the tires that they have for up there and the spikes. I have raced 2 side-by-side races on ice. We raced a series for a couple of years. The Monster Energy King of the Elements is what it was called. And we raced that series. I was very successful on the ice there. I had a win and a second, I believe, or maybe a win and a third. And it's different. The traction's there. I mean, you're really surprised because the way the spikes work, you have a ton of traction until you don't. Like on asphalt, you have traction and then you'll lose it and you can kind of feather the throttle and get it back. On ice, it's like you have traction, but if you cross that line and break it, like you're gone. You're not going to stop. So it's interesting. I do think that I have a good mindset for it, and kind of because when we race Legends, we would race in the rain, on asphalt in the rain, and it was kind of the same thing. Like you had to search for traction all the time, and you're just and you can't break it, it would just totally mess the cornering up. Certainly on exit, because if you mess the exit of a corner up and you got a long straightaway, you technically lost speed the entire length of that straightaway. So a lot of things I've really got to take what I've learned from the first 2 rally races and apply to that as far as being consistent, being smooth, and not just thinking making a move on entry is going to get me a position, because it won't. Casper and McGinnis and Michaela and all of them, the whole class is very tight and very talented racers. Be such a small class, it is a blast to be in. A lot of respect for the guys that I race against in that class.
It was quite funny when I was doing the research for this interview. I was having a look that across the line for both rounds, it was the exact same top 5. And it just shows how tight that competition is, but you still can get the exact same result more or less there. So again, just need to have that consistency, but maybe a slightly different order would be nice.
Yeah, I imagine, I'm assuming from where Casper's from, he's going to have a lot of experience. I know McGinnis he went and did the European side and may have a little more experience on ice there, but I think I'm a fast learner. I'll get out there and I think I'll make sense of it pretty quick.
No, that's awesome. So you mentioned obviously you are considering hopefully coming back to Nitro, and I know earlier you touched on the fact that you'd love to get in a Group E car. Do you think that might be a possibility for the 2023-24 series, or is it just going to be back in the NRX, or do you not know at all?
I really don't know at all. I mean, if the opportunity brings itself, I can probably get some pretty good funding. United Rentals has been an amazing support of my program, not just the Pro 4, but Jimmy Henderson Motorsports in general. And, we have some good sponsors, and we have some people that would want to carry over to that. VP Fuels is one of my partners. United Rentals is one of my partners. Victory Sign. We have some guys that may be interested in helping me on that side. So we just got to work that out, though. The program has to be there, but it all starts, the E-class is a difficult class to get in. From what I can tell, like I said, I've only been to 2 races. I've talked to Andreas a couple of times. I understand their like theory on how to get drivers and how to develop drivers and what they're trying to do, because they're bringing in a lot of like the NASCAR drivers and stuff like that. They're bringing those guys in. So some of the seats are getting filled by other people. So, I really don't have it all put together. If an opportunity comes up, or if there's an opportunity to even talk to somebody about it, I'm going to pursue it. But if there's a driver needed, I'm definitely willing to put myself in that position. I think I'm more than capable of driving the car and doing a good job in that vehicle. It's very similar to my Pro 4, and we're pretty successful in the Pro 4 class. So I would love the opportunity. I just God's got to give me the vessel to get there. So.
Absolutely. And maybe you can bring some of the competition from what you're doing in the NRX straight into the Group E and mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it's been more of a learning curve on going back to the next class, just because, like I said, the underpowered car and the tire pattern, the tread pattern on the tires, there's not much there. It is a slick tire with a couple scoops popped out of it. And the first time I saw the tire, I was like, we are doing what? We're going on dirt with that? Like, I felt like I get stuck in wet grass with that thing. But, the tire, honestly, you do have some traction as long as the track's dry. There's some traction, but when the track's wet, I mean, it's just instantly all over the place, and your throttle control has to be really on top of it. Like you just can't go through there blasting the throttle wide open and hit a wet spot. So, it's been a lot to learn, and I will say rally and Nitro Rally is a lot more physical. Contact is accepted a lot more than I'm used to. We did have some issues at Phoenix where I had to like reach out and just say, look, I'm okay with contact. You can beat doors off this thing anywhere, but not on the face of a jump. That's uncalled for because that's where it gets dangerous. I think we saw that in Phoenix on the E class where some guys had some bad rolls and stuff like that. And that's just something like from Pro 4, we're running something like Crandon, you're running over 100 miles an hour and you're hitting some of these jumps, jumping 200 plus feet. If you make contact on a face, it'll destroy the truck. It's more than likely going to hurt the driver pretty bad. So a few things I'm trying to learn about the series itself and what's acceptable and what's not. And even Eric's like, dude, you should have doored him right there. And I was like, are you sure? Like, it's your car. You're telling me to door the guy? Because to me, that's just not how I was, running circle track and stuff like that. You're door to door and you're rubbing a little bit, but you really don't like make full contact.
You don't got the intention of doing it.
Yeah. I was going down a straightaway and I thought McGinnis, like, I saw him next to me and I just saw him like slamming. I was like, what the? Did he? I think his steering wheel came off. It's so it's a little different what's acceptable, and those things I'm still trying to figure out about the class. But I'm getting there.
You were mentioning as well earlier that it's a pretty tight field in that category. So, and again, we've seen that drivers from all over the world of motorsport are coming in, having a bit of a go at this on all the different levels. Are there any other drivers that you'd like to see come in and compete against you in NRX?
Yeah, the cars are so competitive, and they're so equal. That is something totally different too. Like the next cars, like you buy everything out of a trailer. All the engines are the same, the parts are the same, and same thing with the e-car. They're very controlled. So I do feel like when I'm racing on a simulator, I like to race the fixed classes because I would rather get beat by a driver, not by a setup. So yeah, there's a lot of people. CJ Greaves is probably one of the best guys that's ever sit in a Pro 4. I would love to see him in a car. He's very consistent. I think it would be fun. We have fun racing Pro 4 together. I think it would be good to see him in the Nitro Rally series, just take a shot at it once or twice. I think he would do great. But yeah, there's a few guys I'd like to race against, and I'd love to race against Travis. We raced together in Pro 4, but it was just one race. But I would like to race with him in his court,
Yeah,
and just give it a go and just see how it goes. I think I would excel pretty good in those cars, but we'll see if it ever happens.
a couple of questions from us then before we head into a couple of little fun bits. And something we always ask everyone who we chat to on here: can you describe Nitro RX for us in 3 words?
3 words. I can do it in 1 word. To me, it's excitement. Like just the word excitement, because like when you're walking through the pits, like they have guys doing backflips on motorcycles, and when we were at Glen Helen, they literally had the Nitro Rally Circus or Nitro Circus, 4 guys doing backflips and stunts and knack-knacks and stuff like that, like right next to our pits. My crew couldn't find me. I'm just over there watching them. They have concerts the whole time. They have live music the whole time. The racing, the fact that we're on the track 5 or 6 times a day and we're racing all day, there's no time to stop. You just go, go, go. And then maybe professionalism, the catering of the food, the way that we call tech officials, the way they come around, they talk to you, they help you. If you have an issue, they give you options, not just like, hey, this needs fixed. So the series is just impressive all around, but excitement is what it brings to me. I mean, even as a driver, I'm a fan, like I get excited when I'm going to one of the races just because I have no idea what I'm going to get to see. You know, as far as the racing on the track and jumping over other cars and stuff like that, you just what you're going to see, and that's what I've learned about Nitro Rallycross so far.
It does sound incredibly exciting, and I hope that either of us get to make it to a round to see it. One of my favorite questions that I like to ask is from my rallying background, but if you could pick any rally stage or whole rally and any rally car from history, which would you choose and why?
So I don't know a ton about rally, but what I do know is my friend that lives in Scotland, there is like a mile or a mile and a half strip where they run Indy cars, NASCARs. It's like a whole day, and it goes right by his mom's house, from his childhood home. But they race down the street, and it's timed. So it's just a time. They start from a dead stop, and they're trying to get to the top of this hill in Scotland. I don't know the name of it, but I would love to run a supercar, or just pretty much one of the Subaru supercars. I would love to run that down that track one time. It's just
That sounds
it's
like
a
a lot of
street where
fun.
they close the street off, but it's amazing. I've seen so many videos of it, and they are flying like mailboxes and people right next to the street, and they're just flying
Old
up the
school
street.
rallying.
And yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah.
Some quick
sounds
fire
really
questions for you just to finish off then. And I'll take the first three and then Nabila can have the last three. So straight up, just first thing that comes to mind for you, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
NASCAR or Formula One?
Formula One.
Off-road or on track?
Off-road.
Hot dogs or burgers?
Hot dog.
Beach or mountains?
Oh, I love them both. Beach.
Race or Scottish Highland Games?
Race.
Perfect. We're going to catch you out with the last question there, were we?
Yeah, I tried.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, Jimmy. And I want to thank you very much for coming on and chatting with us. And we're looking forward to see you back in Nitro RX when we go racing again soon.
Absolutely. I'm ready. Couple more weeks, getting close.
I know, it's exciting.
We wish you luck for that round, and I'm excited to see what you can do on ice. And fingers crossed you get that first that you've almost had.
Well, thank you guys so much. Looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll see you in Canada.
Well, I thought that was a really good and in-depth chat with Jimmy there. There was a lot to unpack there and a few good surprising moments in there, I thought, as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I didn't realize he'd had quite that kind of career, and to go from racing to Scottish Highland Games and then back to racing again, but off-road this time. So that's quite the career to jump from like on track and circles to going off-road in trucks and then nitro.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have most of that on my bingo card, and I'm quite glad I didn't do that much research into him beforehand, so I could find that out as we were happening there. And the method of which, like you say, that he was jumping from these different activities and sports from one thing to the next, it's definitely not what you'd even consider to be a straightforward path either.
Oh no, not at all. And just the kind of passion that you can see he has, and he just wants to continue in motorsport as long as possible. I completely get that. So it's really cool to see how his career is progressing, and I'm excited to see how he performs on the ice.
Oh no, definitely. It's even more of a reason to look forward to the next Nitro RX round. And like you're saying, you've got that pure racing driver mentality there that you're never going to be fully satisfied as a race driver unless you can always keep racing until you physically can't anymore. So I think that's literally going to be the only thing to stop him, and hopefully that's not for a very, very, very long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But no, what a great episode, and I'm really glad we had him join us today.
No, definitely, and serves as a nice teaser for what we can expect, like you said, when we go racing with Nitro RX again in Canada, which isn't going to be that far away now. We're getting there, and like you say, the ice, we haven't had that for any of them yet, so very much looking forward to see how we deal with that.
Absolutely. But that's, I think, all we have time for today, don't you think?
Yes, sadly, that is true, but we will be back again soon, possibly with another interview, possibly with a review episode, depending on how close we get to the next round of Nitro RX. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that when it drops, and we will have some fun things to stick on social media as well in the meantime. So do interact with all of that and go and follow us there if you don't already. And all the locations for where you can find Nabila and I in the meantime will stick in the description for this episode. So unless you've got anything else, Nabila, I will sign off.
No, that's all from me, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.